I was the first student member of the World Future Society in 1977 at the age of 11. And I was invited to become a member of this group by my great uncle, who is English and worked for Royal Dutch Shell, and he was a futurist there. And he invited me when I was 10 years old to join them. And since that time, I have to tell you, everything that I imagined that the future would be when I was 10 years old is happening today, right now, including flying cars. And you think I'm making this up. I get to work with all sorts of very interesting industry groups, major corporates, primary producers. Your industry is down here in this row. Primary producers, veterinary associations, major distributors, even national retailers. Do you want to reset this connection again? Or are we good? No, we're not. Just bear with me a moment. Should I reset that again? Yep, okay. Better? No. So, I might get you to fix that while I continue. So, it doesn't matter what industry that I'm working with, whether it's the Pilots Association are worried that they're going to take the co-pilot out of the cockpit because now 20% of all the flights on Airbus and Boeing aircraft are pilotless. Did you know this? Do you like flying without a pilot? Well, you should, because we haven't had any crashes when the robots were flying the plane, but we have when the humans have been flying the plane. And it doesn't matter whether I'm working with skin cancer doctors or teachers or industry groups. It doesn't matter. They're all telling me that they've all seen more changes in the last 3 years than in the last 30. And I know you're feeling it too. You're feeling in the pit of your stomach that the outside world might be moving slightly faster than you are, than your industry is. And this feeling was identified in the late 1960s by one of my mentors, Alvin Toffler, who wrote about it in a book that identifies this feeling that we have in the pit of our stomach, that the world might be changing faster than we are. And do you know what this book was called and this identifiable anxiety is? It was called future shock. Future shock. That the world might be changing significantly faster than you think. Because to get to 50 million in sales of the telephone, it took 75 years. It took 38 years for the radio to get to 50 million of sales. It took 13 years for color TVs. It took 4 years for the World Wide Web. It took 3.5 years for Facebook. It took 3 years for the smartphone. It took 2.5 years for AOL, America Online, which was the precursor to the internet. And it took 19 days for this brand. This brand's at the bottom here. What's this brand? Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go. And there are at least 1 million people playing Pokemon Go right now as I speak. And I know you can feel it too. And so I would like to start this conversation by you turning to the person next to you, and if you're 2 chairs away, you might have to shift over. Talk to your learning partner that you're sitting next to. What incredible changes have you seen in your world in just the last 3 years? You have 90 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. somebody moves it. Okay. Solid. Solid. Shh, thank you. I knew there was changes. Now, I want to talk to you about how I can help you specifically, and unless I talk about how I've helped other clients directly related to yours, you won't know that I'm actually here to serve you. You think I'm here to serve me, but I'm not. I'm here to serve you. And one of my clients is Peter Hayden. Peter Hayden is on the board of Australia Pork. Australia Pork has seen a step change in the acceptance of pork, growing their market in the last, just in the last few years, significantly, by a change in strategy, a change in campaign, and a go-to-market plan. Significantly, we grew the market just over 200 million. Not a bad result for an investment that was less than 10% of that. I don't know about you, but if I could go to the casino and risk $20 and get $200 back every time, I'd be going to the casino every day. So I'm really here to serve you, but I have to ask you, you're not going to be able to accept a lot of the information that I share with you unless you have an open mind. So can I ask you to have an open mind today? Do you have an open mind? Okay, good. Then you will be open to learning because there's lots of things to learn together. And so what we're going to do is there's this technique to get an open mind as open as this guy's. And it's called the tapping technique. And you just take your index fingers, you uncross your arms and lift up your hands. Everyone do this. Tap together. Not like this. Together. Two hands. You have to use two hands. And then you have a mantra. Repeat after me. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. You repeat after me. You repeat after me. I have an open mind. All together now. I have an open mind. Yes, you absolutely do, because I can tell you I just made that up. But we're really living in the age of paradox, where two things are true at the same time. And I'm not talking about fake news. I'm talking about two driving forces that seem completely opposite are true at exactly the same time. Let me give you some examples. Right now, there's more peril to incumbent brands, businesses, industries than ever before in history. Do you believe this? There is more risk around your industry than ever before. True or false? And at the same time, there's more opportunity around your industry than ever before in human history. Do you believe this as well? So these are two opposite trends that are true at exactly the same time, and I'm not talking about fake news. Where you're either the disrupted or you're the disruptors. Which would you rather be? This is the world that we're living in. We're living in a high-tech, high-touch world where technology has invaded our lives, where it's the first thing that we touch in the morning and the last thing that we touch at night is a bit of technology, not our partner, but a bit of technology. Technology really has invaded our lives, has invaded our consumers' lives as well, hasn't it? But at the same time, people are asking for high touch, personal service, natural products, experiences instead of things they're investing in. Many of my major companies that I'm working with are talking about the end of ownership. People don't want to own things anymore. They're just happy to rent them on demand. And so this is changing everything. And of course, meat and non-meat at the same time. And as part of this research that we did with Australian pork, I produced a series of videos. They asked me to go out to my community of futurists and to go out to the World Wide Web and look at all the data points that might impact our strategy. So I employed an algorithm that scanned 90 billion web pages in 24 hours and answered the 3 questions that Australian pork wanted to know. What's the future of food? What's the future of meat? And what's the future of pork? And I thought I would share with you this short video that summarizes those 6,000 data points that we collected in 24 hours, then was peer-reviewed by my 24,000 futurist friends and boiled down to the 60 major trends that would impact meat production. And I thought I'd play this video for you if we get a chance and you can see it. Let's have a go. Here's the future of meat. Discuss with your learning partner the most surprising thing you saw in the video. You have 90 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. You want to try this laptop at the back of the room? Put your hand up. Put your hand up. Were you listening to your learning partner? Were you listening to your learning partner, or were you just thinking about what you were going to say? Put your hand up if you'd like to share what your learning partner thought was the most surprising thing in the video, not what you thought, what your learning partner thought. Would you like to put your hand up? Anyone? Anyone? Yes? I saw the hand at the back of the room. Back here, pass the mic down.
My learning partner thought that the decrease in meat over the next few years because of the concern about artificial meat was going to be a problem, but he was interested to see that it was going to be growing and picking up after that.
In fact, you know, the rise of food is fantastic because of the rise of the population. Meat will grow 40% faster than the growth of food. And these new products are just incidental. They're growing very quickly, but they're tiny, tiny, tiny little base. And in the long-term future, we definitely have to be worried about this. But in the short term, it's relatively small. Although the uptake, did you hear that this person was the first one in line at 9:30 in the morning when Arby, do you know Arby, chain of restaurants, is a very famous, low-cost, cheap place to eat. And they decided that they wanted to compete with McDonald's McRib, which is really artificial meat. It's terrible. It's terrible. He goes, he tweeted out, I was the first in line at 9:30 this morning waiting for the venison, the first time they served venison at the Arby's restaurants. Another noted that their local Arby's was out of sandwiches by 2:15 p.m. And not only were sales expected to skyrocket, but the media coverage about this carried on for days. And what's really interesting in this market that is shifting, it's shifting in two ways, towards low cost and premium products. And when it comes to the premium products, the diversity of new products is just so surprising. You wouldn't believe what people are choosing to eat. And when I went to school when I was young, my dad's Kiwi, my great-grandfather moved to Hawke's Bay in 1905 and became a fruit farmer. And so when I grew up in America, I had odd sandwiches. And people called me ethnic because I had Devon in my sandwiches in the 1970s. Do you know what people are eating in their sandwiches at school now? It's incredible what we're seeing. And the reason is that people are more accepting to change in their lives. They're more accepting. Every time they download a new app on their phone, they're engaging with a new brand. And so how accepting are we of new brands? Every day we're doing it. This is great news. This is great news. Click. At the same time, you should know that we are entering the fourth industrial revolution. and every industry will be changed by some incredible shifts. In fact, we will change our entire economic system, and I don't mean from communism to capitalism. I mean a shift in the thinking of what drives our economies. And we're moving from the third industrial revolution, which was, well, do you know what the first one was? What was the first industrial revolution? Steam. And then the second industrial revolution was electricity. The third was computers and communication. And the fourth is defined by a shift in not only the markets and the economy, but us as humans. We will be changed as well. This is the big shift in the fourth industrial revolution. And I would love for you to study with me. If you would like to partake of this fantastic book written by the chairman of the World Economic Forum, Professor Klaus Schwab. And he writes in the fourth industrial revolution that ubiquitous mobile supercomputing, intelligent robots, self-driving cars, neurotechnological brain enhancement, genetic editing, all the evidence for how the world is shifting is happening today, and that's what's driving this fourth industrial revolution, and you are all part of it. And if you're not aware of this, you should be aware. Now, you might be busy, and so you might not have time to read the book. So could I suggest that you go to YouTube and type in YouTube/WEF for the World Economic Forum and watch the 12-minute documentary on the fourth industrial revolution, if you don't have time to read the book. Hands up if you're going to read the book. Hands up if you're going to watch the YouTube video. Hands up if you don't like putting your hand up. There's a bunch of you out there. But you have to know where we're going, because we're really going places that you wouldn't imagine. And so what this is leading to, at the last Davos, they call it Davos, that's where it's held, this World Economic Forum that's been run for 35 years by Professor Klaus. And this year, it was all about Larry's letter. And following up on the previous conversation about a social license, Larry runs the biggest hedge fund in the world, $6 trillion. $6 trillion! And he's an activist investor. BlackRock is his name. BlackRock is his company. And he sent a letter to all the listed companies on the New York Stock Exchange. And in Larry's letter, he said that we, as champions of the fourth industrial revolution, must focus on two things that you're not doing very well. Those two things are, number one was long-term strategy. We're not very good at doing a long-term strategy. In fact, many organizations, when they're doing long-term strategy, they do it in 1 or 2 days, once a year. If we're doing long-term strategy, how often should we be doing long-term strategy? Every day. Every day. And so there are systems that one can put into place to monitor what the markets are doing around the driving forces that are impacting your industry. We could do that every day. And it now costs very little to do that. He also said that we must be committed to a societal purpose, and we heard a lot about that, so I edited out those slides that I was going to talk more about having a social license. But even Larry, an activist investor, is talking about a social license. So this is the framework that we're operating within, and you can really feel that we're going through this shift. You can really feel it, can't you? I know I can. Click. The world is really changing, isn't it? And I thought what I would do to bring you all up to speed so you understand how the world is changing, how religion is changing, how commerce is changing, how society is changing, how we've lifted 1 billion people into the middle class just in the 20 years. 1 billion people have been lifted into the middle class, and now they can afford venison. And the good news is, we're going to add another billion people in the next 10 years into the middle class that will be able to afford venison as well. I've got a little a video that's just 2 minutes long that will talk about these things. And at the end of it, again, I'd like you to turn to your learning partner and discuss what was the most surprising thing you saw in the video. This will get you up to speed of these driving forces very, very quickly. Here it is. It's called Did You Know in 2028? That's only 10 years away. Did you know in 2028? Here comes the video. That was funny. 'Turn to your learning partner, discuss with them what was the most surprising thing they saw in the video. You have 60 seconds. Your time begins now. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you know the drill. Who would like to share what their learning partner thought was the most surprising? Your hand went up first, madam.
1 in 3 people will be over 100. That's scary.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? We're extending human life farther and farther. I have a futurist friend, Audrey Gray, and he is an expert in longevity, and he says that there are young people alive today that'll make it to 125 easy. Yeah. Who else? Over here, somebody thought something surprising? Anyone over here don't want to share? You know what I thought was surprising? So I wanted to verify it. Oh, Verbeck, one of my clients. Good to see you.
I found that expression around all of the internet being stored on DNA.
Yeah, I know. And you won't believe what you have on your farms that will help with this. You'll never believe it, and it's totally true. Here it is at the bottom of this test tube. Some genetically modified E. coli. And you won't believe what the American Film Institute is doing. They're storing movies on this medium because they want it to last for more than 1,000 years. This little startup is called, I love it, it's called Twist. Why is it called Twist? Because DNA is in a spiral, we think, although we've just found a new form of DNA that's in us, and it's not a spiral, so it could be not a spiral as well. And did you know that 1 gram of this DNA can store 1 billion terabytes of data for at least 1,000 years? So if you buy a new laptop today, and it's, say, like a gamer's laptop, you'll get a terabyte drive in it. Imagine buying 1 billion of those. But if you're a geneticist, you're like, this is fantastic, because we can grow E. coli in the dark. We can put it in the lab down in a damp, warm place, and it will double. And we don't have to build a $2 billion Intel fabrication plant anymore. We can grow things. And this is how everything's going to change, including your industry. So Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, and Google have all invested in this startup called Twist, and they all know that in the not too distant future, we're going to be storing everything in genetically modified E. coli. You have some of this in your household as well, and so in the future, backing up is going to mean something completely different when you go to the loo. Put your hand up if you feel like the world is moving slightly faster than you thought it was. Yes. So I attend this conference in 1998. This is the dawn of the internet. And there are 2,000 people at this conference. I wasn't presenting, I was just a delegate. And I didn't arrive early because of Qantas flight was delayed and the super shuttles were delayed. And I rushed in, but the conference organizer at the entrance said, just before you go in, could you write, Craig, on your badge 3 words that inspire you? Because we're going to have table topics, and we're going to move every half an hour based on those words. And so I hurriedly wrote down 3 words. 3 words. My 3 words were foresight, innovation, and leadership. And I rushed in and I sat down at one of these round tables. This guy reached his hand over to me and he said, "Hi there. Oh, Craig, you're a futurist. We love futurists at GE. My name's Jack Welch." And he extended his hand like that. Now, do you know who Jack Welch is? Previous chief executive of GE, grew the company from a value of $13 billion to $500 billion. And so when he said, "Hi, my name's Jack Welch," all I could think, because I'm a smooth, suave operator, all I could think of saying is, "I know, it's you." And he said, "Hey, at GE, we love futurists. We employ a lot of them." I said, "Yes, I know. Some of your employees are part of the World Future Society. I know them well." He said, "And Craig, I have to tell you, look at your badge." And I looked at my badge, and I said, "What about it?" He said, "Look at my badge." And he had 3 words on his badge. You know what 3 words he had? Foresight, innovation, and leadership. He said, "We're not going to have to move table. We can stay here together and talk for an hour and a half." I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, because I get to sit with Jack Welch for an hour and a half. And he said, "And everybody will come to our have to move and come to our table." I said, "You're Jack Welch. Everybody's going to come to your table." And of course, by the 3rd session, everybody was huddled around Jack. Now, Jack says lots of things about the future, but it's directly related to what you put your hand up around. Jack says, if change is happening on the outside faster than on the inside, the end is in sight. You must keep up with your customers. You must keep up with industry changes, and I'm here to help you, not only in this speech, but for the next 12 months, you will have access to me. I'm not going to try and sell you anything. I'm going to provide you online leadership for the next 12 months because I want to help you as an industry. The second book that we're going to be reading together in these sessions, if you choose to partake, is Abundance. And Abundance, it spells out the 8 mega trends that will transform these industries in more detail. And it talks about the major challenges that we will have to deal with in the world, including clean water, equity, equal opportunities for all, education, and how these technologies will help them. And these 8 technologies are impacting every industry and changing our economy. And I thought I would share them with you as an executive summary. So this is exactly the time you take out your smartphone and get ready to take a picture. Are you ready? Have you got your smartphone out? This guy says you really should read it. What's his name? Bill. There's another Bill said that it's required reading, this book, for every modern executive, and his initials are BG. Bill Gates. His initials also stand for now the biggest giver of all time. And in this book, they talk about technocrats, techno-billionaires that have become the biggest givers. Here's the list. At number 1, infinite computing. We talked a little bit about that in E. coli. Number 2, sensors and networks. Number 3, robotics. 4, 3D printing. 5, synthetic biology. 6, digital medicine. 7, nanomaterials. And 8. And one of these will be the single biggest driving factor to completely change your industry. Which one is it? Turn to your learning partner and discuss. You have 30 seconds. What number is it? Tick, 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 tick. Feels like quiz night again. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. On the count of 3, you're going to hold up as many fingers for the number that you think is going to be the number 1 driving force in your industry. Would you please, on the count of 3, hold up your fingers? 1, 2, 3. The answer is 5, 3, 1, 8, 9, 7. You want to know what the real answer is? All of them. So, for instance, if you're doing strategy for the next 12 months, are all of these on your radar? Are all of these on your radar? For instance, synthetic biology. Now, at this point, I thought, I'm running out of time, I thought I would show you the goats that are producing in their milk spider webs. Have you heard about biosteel? You know that spider webs are more stronger than steel. So there are goats now producing spider webs in their milk. Am I making this up, guys? No, I'm not making this up. This used to be science fiction, and it's science reality today. So I thought I'd share with you what some food scientists have recently produced. You probably all have heard about it. It's called the Impossible Burger, but what you haven't heard is they've gone into mass supply. They can now produce millions of patties in their factory because they've just signed up. If you like Wayne's World, you will know this burger joint. It's called White Castle. White Castle. Have a look at this.
Oh, I know what you guys did. Is this a vegan burger? Yo, it's good.
tastes like a real burger.
It's a vegan burger, isn't it?
What's about?
What's in it? Let me tell you something. I could go vegetarian if this is what all my burgers tasted like.
Coming back on $1.99. You're shaking your head like this is unbelievable, but this is the world we're living in. But what is shocking is these same people, many people who say they want to eat vegan, are not loyal. They eat vegan on most days, but on Friday, they want a little luxury. And they go to Costco and they buy Wagyu beef and they slice it very thinly and put it into beautiful salads like we had last night. I have to tell you, many vegans choose to be vegan all the time, but many people are choosing to have a vegan lifestyle and cheat on the weekend. Just saying. Sensors and networks, you're already using sensors and networks, but sensors and networks are getting cheaper. We're going into the Internet of Things, and that means that instead of selling just billions of smartphones, we will have 10 to 100 times that on new networks that are called, what are the new networks called? 5G networks. 5G networks. 5G networks, the next generation phone network, is designed not for your phone, but for the Internet of Things. And these are some examples of how scanners are getting cheaper and better every day. So I have a friend that's a cardiologist, and when you go to see him, he doesn't use a stethoscope anymore. He pulls out his smartphone, and he's got an ultrasound that can monitor your heart rate, the flow, your heart flow, how the valves are working, and he just rents it in his practice for $199 a month. I don't know how much you paid for your ultrasound, but was it more expensive than that? Just saying. And they're getting even cheaper. I mean, there's a knockoff version of this Philips, which is the best one, and then GE makes another one. It's a very good one as well. But there are knockoff ones on Alibaba. You know Alibaba? On Alibaba, you can buy this one. It's not as fine resolution, but if you wanted to monitor a bladder or a pregnancy, you could certainly, use something like this. $199 outright, knockoff version of the Philips one. And this Israeli startup decided to create a molecular scanner. What this means is that your distributors, because do you know, I don't know if you know this, there's a lot of food fraud in the world. Just a little industry secret, I don't know if you knew this. So imagine your distributors in China want to verify, it's not just the logo on the outside, but they want to verify that that product in that box is the same molecular makeup of that felt that came off the farm. So what you need is one of these that was funded through a Kickstarter. It's a molecular scanner you connect to your phone, and you can scan the molecular structure of anything in the physical environment with a little device that costs a couple $100 in the palm of your hand. And you could give it to your distributor in China, and when they scan it on the other end, if it doesn't match, you know what the phone does? Fake food. Fake food. Have a look at this. Whoops, click too quickly. Go again.
The technology at our fingertips can help us do amazing things.
It can help us navigate the world, know which restaurant to book tonight, or know what song is playing on the radio. But when it comes to the actual stuff around us, if we're not sure or just don't know, well, you're on your own.
I'm Damien.
And I'm Dror. I'm excited to introduce Sayo. Sayo is the first molecular sensor that fits in the palm of your hand.
It scans the molecular fingerprint of an object and provides relevant instant information about its chemical makeup.
You can use it to log the chemical fingerprint, record it, and share with your friends.
Imagine if there was a way to know which watermelon is sweeter.
When is that avocado gonna ripen? How many calories, carbs, or proteins are in that shake?
How your plants are doing. Imagine if there was a way to know the chemical makeup of everything we come in contact with. The applications are endless.
Sayo uses this tiny optical sensor called a spectrometer, which absorbs light reflected back from an object and breaks it down into a spectrum. The spectrum is then sent to our cloud for analysis, and our algorithms sends back the result to your phone in real time.
Spectrometers are used today in labs around the world, but they're too large and expensive for everyday use.
To fulfill our vision, we need to make a tiny spectrometer that can be mass-produced at low cost.
We recruited an amazing R&D team that redesigned the sensor from the ground up, using low-cost optics and advanced signal processing algorithms.
It took us 3 years and the effort of many talented engineers to create our sensor. We now have a working product and several applications, with many more to come.
I'll stop it there for the time being because I'm running out of time. There's so much more that I want to show you. I have 849 more slides. Just kidding. I'm not going to give you just a few more. The World Economic Forum voted this startup, Consumer Physics, they're called, Consumer Physics, an Israeli startup. They voted them the startup to most likely benefit mankind. Pretty interesting. And I'm an investor in them. Full disclosure, I'm an investor in this startup. I invested $129 on their Kickstarter. And I got equity, didn't I? I got equity? No, on Kickstarter, you give money just to back projects. Interesting. Food, I work in food service. I work in retail. I'm just back. We're working with Subway. Do you know Subway's bigger than McDonald's now? Subway's bigger than McDonald's. Very influential fast food retailer. And of course, food service robots are popping up all the time. And in your industry, it means from production to all the way up to food service, everything's shifting. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I can't afford those robots. They're really expensive. Here's the great news. We have a new robot barista in Melbourne because the humans can't produce enough cups of coffee to serve all the hipsters in Melbourne. So they brought the robot in. And the robot would cost tens of thousands of dollars, and they realized that wasn't a working model. So what they do is they hire the robot out at $24 an hour, and you only pay it when it works. This is how you're going to afford robots in the future. You won't own anything, you just hire them as you need them. Have a look at this. Oh. Try it again. And play.
We're in the beginning of what appears to be a great technological upset. But some say this has happened before.
The classic historical example of a technological disruption that most people would point to is what happened in agriculture. It used to be that half or more of the people in the United States worked on farms. Now, it's maybe 1 or 2% of our workforce is directly engaged in agriculture. So there was a huge disruption there.
The disruption was tools like the tractor and the combine.
Modern equipment speeds up the work, makes it easier and more efficient too.
And it hasn't stopped.
We've always made machines that made us people better. Like today, a farmer can plow the fields for 150 hungry people.
And barely has to lift a finger to do so. Machines, increasingly equipped with sophisticated machine vision and artificial intelligence, now plant, weed and harvest an ever-growing array of crops. And it isn't just the field work that's being disrupted. Today, robots are prepping, cooking, and even serving us. Tasks that until recently only a human could perform.
So when we hear the sound of the bell, we know that a new order needs to be prepared.
Fire one supreme.
At Zoom Pizza, it's all about the fresh ingredients and the robots.
And now Martha's going to spread that sauce. And we want her to spread the sauce evenly, but not too evenly, because we still want to have that artisan feel.
Marta isn't your typical line cook. It's an industrial robotic arm modified to spread pizza sauce just so.
At Zoom, humans and robots work together to make pizza. The robots do the tasks that are repetitive, that are boring, that are unsafe, like sticking your hand in and out of an 800-degree oven.
Colin says thanks in part to the robots, only 9% of Zoom's operating cost goes to labour. A typical pizza restaurant might spend 25% on workers. But Zoom insists it's not out to replace people with robots.
Humans do the tasks that are human-centered, like cooking from scratch, preparing fresh produce, making sauce. And so this is how we're able to unlock human potential to give people better, more satisfying jobs, and how we're also able to reduce some of our hourly labor costs so we can spend more money on high-quality ingredients for our customers.
Now, I just have to tell you that your new competitor that's just entered your industry is Google. Google is backing the Impossible Burger and Zoom Pizzas. Zoom Pizza has now disrupted Domino's business model. They now have they partially cook the pizza, they put it onto a truck. It's not cooked all the way. They use machine learning and artificial intelligence to predict how many venison pepperoni pizzas are needed in that San Francisco neighborhood. And when you order the pizza with your phone, they cook it the last 2 minutes, and when they pull up to your house, it finishes within those 5 seconds. How fresh is the pizza? 5 seconds! Just think about that. They're completely disrupting Domino's, and Domino's said, we have a business model that's not disruptible. And when it comes to food service, you're going to have to produce product that are for the robots, not for the chefs, because the chefs are all going to duplicate themselves onto the robots. And you're thinking, no, this is not going to happen, but actually, you're in denial. It's definitely going to happen, because all the great chefs now are recording onto robots how they cook their most famous dishes, and they're installing the robots on cruise ships. First of all, they'll go into restaurants next, and then fast food. You think I'm making this up? Just have a look at this.
Imagine having a 5-star chef cooking all your meals for you every day of your life. This is the dream and the goal that Moli Robotics is trying to accomplish. They have created the first fully automated and intelligent robots that can learn recipes, cook all kinds of foods with a remarkable precision, and then clean up after themselves. Moli Robotics built a working prototype of the Moli Kitchen. This futuristic-looking workstation is equipped with advanced robotic arms and hands that can grip kitchen utensils, measure liquids, crack eggs, you name it, they can do it. Master Chef winner Tim Anderson was hired on as Molly's development chef and helped the robotics team teach the robots how to cook by using motion capture gloves and wristbands, much like a video game. This means you can potentially record the movements of other famous chefs and have a meal prepared for you indirectly by, let's say, Chef Gordon Ramsay.
You're in denial.
Molly
Now you might say, but Craig, we're here in New Zealand. This will never happen in New Zealand. Why would this happen in New Zealand? Or I'm just a small operator. I can't be part of this future. And what I'd say to you, it's only because of your mindset. This is available to all of us, and we have to decide whether we're going to be part of it to be ahead of the game or not. And luckily, New Zealand is taking a leadership role worldwide at being carbon neutral by 2050, unless you change government again, which happens all the time, but anyway. So here's the good news. Meanwhile, in New Zealand, one of the people that you saw in the video, Sebastian Thrun, who used to work for Google, has been handpicked by one of the co-founders of Google to create a flying car in Christchurch. Did you see this in the news? If you didn't, here's the video.
This is an amazing moment in time. Just in the past few years, there's been enormous progress around the world on new type of personal transportation vehicle that will take you to the air. Kitty Hawk is a California-based company, and at Kitty Hawk, we are really proud to be part of this global movement to rethink, to reimagine how all of us get around every day. At Kitty Hawk, we know the technology is feasible because we are already doing it. Today, we're introducing Cora, a vehicle you've never seen before.
We're so excited to unveil Cora to the world. Cora is 100% electric and therefore emissions-free. Like a helicopter, Cora takes off and lands vertically, so it doesn't need a runway or an airport. But unlike a helicopter, Cora is remarkably quiet. Cora can fly faster than 150 kilometers an hour and has a range of 100 kilometers. And unlike cars on the road, it travels in a straight line and it will never have to stop at a traffic light. And lastly, Cora is self-piloting, which means to get where you want to go, you don't need a pilot's license.
We're really at the beginning of our quest. It's one thing to design and rigorously test an aircraft, but it's another thing to make it useful to society. That is the reason that we are so excited and proud to be working with the people and the government of New Zealand to roll out a commercial air taxi service. New Zealand is known for its innovation, its devotion to clean energy, which we offer, and to its very high aviation standards.
We've got ambitious goals here in New Zealand. We want to get to net zero emissions by 2050, and that includes mobility. We're proud that Kitty Hawk has chosen New Zealand to undertake this exciting research and development work and is one of the flagship companies in our Innovative Partnerships program.
Hands up if you're going to have a reservation on the new flying car. You haven't booked in yet? Everybody says, what happens if one of those propeller goes out? We've got 8 more. Don't worry about it. So, there is an entire industry group. They're called the startups. They're called the unicorns. There's 170 unicorns this morning as a final idea to share with you. And they're all looking for commercial operators to partner with. Put your hand if you're a startup in the room. Next year, wouldn't it be great if 20% of the room was filled by startups partnering with your industry? Because you can't argue with success. This morning, 170 startups are called unicorns. They're valued at more than $1 billion. If you want to know more about this, read at the Wall Street Journal about the $1 Billion Startup Club. One of them, this morning, was valued at $31 billion. You may have heard of them. They're called Airbnb. One of the most popular categories on Airbnb, farm stays. Farm stays, one of the most popular categories on Airbnb, farm stays, because consumers are increasingly asking, where does my food come from? Where does my food come from? Here's the list. I don't know if you can see it in the back of the room. It's a long list. I'll just zoom in. We got Uber and Didi. Didi's the Uber of China, and those two companies together are valued at more than $100 billion. The number 3 is Xiaomi. Xiaomi makes the Mi phone. They are the 3rd largest mobile phone company, handset manufacturer in the world now, after Apple and Google. That was just announced this week. Airbnb at $31 billion. SpaceX is now doing all the deliveries to the International Space Station. In other words, a commercial startup is now doing what NASA cannot do for 1/10 of the cost that NASA used to do it. Just saying. Wouldn't it be great to team up with DJI? Where's DJI? Where's Jason? Where's Jason? Jason, where are you? Can you show everybody, like in the break, could you show everybody, there you are. Could you show everybody how you herd the sheep with your drone? Would you do that at the break? It's incredible. This company, worth $10 billion, they make commercial drones and consumer drones, could not have existed 7 years ago because we hadn't sold enough tilt sensors, GPSs, and accelerometers that are built into all these phones. But because we shipped billions of them, they can put them in their drones and now sell drones for $400. It's really incredible. I race drones for a hobby. Drone racing, sport of the future. Or sport of now, because ESPN is broadcasting it worldwide. We have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of sponsors. And if you're interested in this, look up the Drone Racing League finals in Dubai. It was pretty spectacular. The list goes on and on and on, including Uber. This is the world's largest transport company that owns no vehicles and now bigger than Ford, GM, and Honda after 5 years. Airbnb is now bigger than Marriott. It owns no real estate. Actually, I should strike that out because they just bought a hotel in Miami. They're going to turn it into the Airbnb hotel in Miami. But it took them less than 5 years. They're more valuable than Marriott and Hilton. And now Marriott has to compete with Airbnb, so Marriott's getting into homestays. All of these megatrends are driving companies like Blue Apron, like HelloFresh. And when I speak to my food distributors and manufacturers, and I ask them, do you have a strategic alliance with a startup like Blue Apron? If they say no, I'm really worried. Do you know who Blue Apron is? They're delivering millions of meals every day. Every day. Some of them have venison in them. And HelloFresh. Spotify is now 20% of all the music revenues worldwide. Netflix is 30% of all the entertainment revenues in the United States. The list goes on. If you go to Crunchbase and you put in food, this is where you'll find a list of all the startups. Next year, we could put in a call out to all the startups. There are 4,158 of them today. Let me ask you as an industry, why aren't they in the room this year? Let's get them here next year. Because billions of customers are having extraordinary experiences all around the world. They're climbing into freaking pilotless cars, guys. They're staying in incredible Airbnbs. And then they come to your farm and they compare their Uber experiences with what they get on your farm. They literally are comparing it. And so they tweet out things like this. Landing at Kennedy Airport from Hong Kong, where they have, maglev trains that travel at 317 kilometers per hour. Landing at Kennedy Airport from Hong Kong was, as I've argued before, like going From the Jetsons to the Flintstones. Turn to your learning partner, ask them, is your farm more like the Jetsons or the Flintstones? You have 15 seconds to discuss. Your time begins now. Hope it's a little both. Hope it's a little of both. Last idea to share with you. If you would like my help to steal some of these startup ideas, bring that molecular sensor to your industry, to your farm, to your distribution to ensure food security in the future, I would say follow me on this journey. I'm going to publish a link to all of you so you can join my online mentoring. I'm not trying to sell you anything for the next 12 months. The third book we will be reading is how to engage with startups, these exponential organizations, and how to, for 1/10 of the investment, be 10 times better than you are today. For 1/10 the investment, be 10 times better than you are today. Thank you so much for your attention. Sorry, a little bit, we had a little glitch there, but we eventually got it going. And don't worry, because this is just the start of the conversation. I can't wait to see you, help you online for the next 12 months. You all get an email. You can join my friends from ANSCO, Progressive Meats, to talk about what the future of food looks like. I'll see you online. Thank you very much.